I'm Autumn Reynolds, 27, arranging our family's Thanksgiving table with Grandma's china when I notice Dad suspiciously hovering with his phone. Just capturing memories, he insists. 24 hours later, I'm hiding in my childhood bedroom as my phone explodes with notifications. Dad's secretly recorded video of me singing Taylor Swift while setting the table has 12 million views. The worst part? The comments section where strangers are dissecting every detail of my embarrassing personal rant about my ex-boyfriend. My life is officially over. Before I dive into how my dad's betrayal turned my life upside down, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Hit that like button if you've ever had a family member violate your privacy, and subscribe to join our community of survivors. Trust me, you'll want to stick around to see how I turned this family nightmare into something powerful. To understand why my dad's video felt like such a devastating betrayal, you need to know a bit about the Reynolds family. My father, Richard Reynolds, built his real estate development company from scratch into one of Boston's most successful firms. His success story was impressive, and he never let anyone forget it. Every family dinner featured at least 3 reminders of how he pulled himself up by his bootstraps while supporting a family. Image was everything to my father. Our house in Beacon Hill had to be immaculate for impromptu business meetings. My mother Caroline, my siblings, and I were expected to dress appropriately, speak politely, and represent the Reynolds brand at all times. We weren't just a family, we were a marketing strategy. My relationship with Dad was always complicated. As the middle child between my older brother Mason and younger sister Zoe, I often felt invisible. Mason was groomed to take over the family business from day one. My father showered him with attention, taking him to meetings and teaching him the business. Zoe, 7 years younger than me, became the family rebel. Her constant defiance actually earned her a certain respect from Dad, who admired her fighting spirit. Me? I was just expected to be perfect without recognition. I did everything right, graduated top of my class, secured a great marketing job at a prestigious firm, dated appropriate men from good families. None of it seemed to register with my father beyond a perfunctory. That's what Reynolds do. The privacy violations started early. When I was 14, I discovered Dad had been reading my diary. I confronted him, tears streaming down my face, and his response was, "As long as you live under my roof, you have no secrets from me." Mom just patted my shoulder and suggested I write the positive things so Dad wouldn't worry. When I got accepted to Northwestern University, Dad announced it at his business dinner before I could tell my best friend. When I received my first promotion, he posted it on his business page before I had even signed the paperwork. Each time I protested, the response was the same. Family achievements reflect on the Reynolds name. 3 months before the Thanksgiving incident, my carefully constructed life fell apart. The marketing firm I worked for lost its biggest client and laid off half the staff, including me. That same week, my boyfriend of 2 years, James, decided we wanted different things and moved out of our apartment. With nowhere else to go and savings rapidly dwindling, I had to move back into my parents' house. Living at home at 27 felt like failure enough. Dad's constant questions about networking opportunities and getting back on my feet made it worse. I threw myself into Thanksgiving preparations as a distraction, particularly setting the table with my grandmother's china. My late grandmother, Martha, had been my safe harbor in the Reynolds family storm. She taught me that family traditions should be about connection, not appearance. The Thanksgiving table setting was her specialty, and after she passed away 3 years ago, I took over the tradition. Each placement of her antique china, each carefully folded napkin, was my way of keeping her memory alive. What Dad never understood, what he still doesn't understand, was that some things aren't meant to be shared with the world. Some moments are private, sacred even. Setting Grandma's Thanksgiving table was my quiet rebellion against the Reynolds' obsession with appearance. It was the one family tradition that still felt authentic to me. Meanwhile, Dad's social media presence had been growing steadily over the past 2 years. What started as business promotion had evolved into lifestyle content. His Instagram account featuring the Reynolds family success story had gained significant traction, particularly among aspiring entrepreneurs. He had recently hired a social media manager and talked constantly about engagement metrics and content calendars. I should have seen the warning signs. The way he began staging family moments, the constant repositioning for better lighting, the disappearance of spontaneous conversation, replaced by what felt like auditions for the next post. But somehow, I still believed there were boundaries he wouldn't cross. That some family moments remained sacred. I was wrong. The video itself was mortifying enough. There I was, completely unaware of being recorded, singing Taylor Swift's All Too Well dramatically while arranging the silverware. But the truly humiliating part came when I started talking to myself about James rehearsing what I wished I'd said when he left, alternating between anger and tears, all while aggressively folding napkins into perfect swans. And you know what, James? You didn't just leave me. You left when I needed you most. Real convenient timing after my layoff, huh? Was I just arm candy for your corporate parties? I had muttered to a fork. Then, embarrassingly, I'd shifted to a breathy whisper. But I miss your stupid face every morning. Why couldn't we have tried harder? Dad had captured every pathetic second, edited it to maximize emotional impact, added captions highlighting my most cringeworthy statements, and posted it with the caption, "My daughter's Thanksgiving therapy session. Thanksgiving prep, single girl problems, family reality." I discovered the video halfway through Thanksgiving dinner. My phone kept buzzing with notifications, and when I finally checked it, I saw dozens of messages from friends sending links to the video. It already had 3 million views and was climbing fast. "Dad, what is this?" I held up my phone, my hand shaking. The entire family paused, forks midair. Dad looked up, completely unfazed. "Oh, that! Isn't it something? Going viral on my account will be great exposure for you. Might even help with the job hunt. You recorded me without permission. You posted my private moment for millions of strangers to see." My voice cracked. He waved dismissively. "It's just a video, Autumn. You look fine. People love authentic content." Mom immediately tried to smooth things over. "Richard, perhaps you should have asked first, but Autumn, darling, it's really not that bad. You have such a lovely singing voice." "Lovely?" "Mom, the comments are calling me Psycho Table Girl and Taylor Grift." Mason, ever Dad's son, chuckled. "You have to admit it's pretty funny, sis. I've already gotten texts from 3 clients who recognized our family. Only Zoe seemed to understand the violation. Dad, that's seriously messed up. You can't just post people without asking." "I most certainly can when it's my daughter in my house," Dad replied, his tone hardening. "Besides, it's doing numbers like nothing I've ever posted. My follower count is up 30% since this morning." Throughout dinner, my phone continued buzzing. Old college friends, distant relatives, former colleagues, all sending the video with variations of, "Is this you?" Even James texted, "Saw the video. We should talk." The comments were brutal. "Someone tell Table Girl that her ex definitely dodged a bullet. This is why I'm staying single forever, lol. Rich people problems. Nice house, though. Can we talk about how she's manhandling that antique china? Those plates cost more than my car." I couldn't finish my dinner. The turkey felt like sawdust in my mouth as notification after notification arrived. Dad's phone kept buzzing too, each sound a reminder of how my humiliation was translating into his social capital. "Dad, please take it down," I finally said. "Absolutely not," he replied without hesitation. "This is the biggest engagement I've ever had. Homestyles has already reached out about a potential sponsorship for their holiday collection. So you're literally profiting off my humiliation? Don't be so dramatic, Autumn. This is how the world works now. Everything is content." I left the table abruptly, my grandmother's carefully arranged place settings now seeming like a cruel joke. In my bedroom, I discovered the hashtag Thanksgiving Table Girl was trending. Someone had already made a dance remix of my muttered breakup speech. By midnight, the video had reached 15 million views and had been shared by several major content aggregators. What should have been a private family holiday had become public entertainment, and my father, the one person who should have protected me, had orchestrated it all. The consequences of Dad's video extended far beyond a ruined Thanksgiving. As the views climbed past 20 million in the following days, my already challenging job search became nearly impossible. The first interview after the video went viral started normally enough. The marketing director at Apex Solutions seemed impressed with my portfolio until her expression shifted mid-conversation. "Wait, I know you from somewhere." Her eyes widened with recognition. "You're the Thanksgiving table girl. My kids have been quoting you all week." Despite my attempts to redirect the conversation to my qualifications, the interview devolved into questions about going viral and whether I could help their company create authentic moments. I wasn't being considered as a marketing professional, but as a viral curiosity. This scenario repeated itself across 3 more interviews. One interviewer blatantly admitted, "I'm not sure we can have someone so emotionally volatile representing our clients." Even walking down the street became an exercise in anxiety as strangers began recognizing me. "Hey, it's Table Girl," someone shouted as I waited for coffee at my local shop. 2 teenagers nearby immediately raised their phones, recording me without even trying to be subtle. "Can you fold a napkin and cry about your ex for us?" one called out as I hurried away, leaving my coffee order behind. My anxiety, manageable before, spiraled into full-blown panic attacks. I stopped going out except when absolutely necessary. My social media accounts were bombarded with friend requests and messages ranging from mockery to inappropriate propositions. I made everything private, but the damage was done. Meanwhile, Dad's social media presence flourished. His follower count tripled. He hired a professional management team to handle the increased interest in the Reynolds family brand. He began posting daily content about entrepreneurship and family values, positioning himself as a relatable success story. "You should really leverage this attention," Dad suggested one evening. "Your marketing background, plus this built-in audience, could be powerful. I've got 3 companies asking if you'd endorse their products." "You want me to capitalize on my own humiliation?" I asked incredulously. "It's not humiliation, it's opportunity," he corrected. "This is the digital economy, Autumn. Everything is personal brand now." Mom, as always, tried to find middle ground. "Maybe your father could have asked permission, darling, but what's done is done. Perhaps there is a way to make this work for your career?" Even Mason started pressuring me. "Stop being so sensitive. Dad's connections could get you a better job than you had before. Just play along." Only Zoe remained firmly in my corner. During one of our late-night talks in my bedroom, she revealed something that chilled me. "You know this isn't the first time, right?" she said quietly. "What do you mean?" "Dad's been posting about all of us for years. Remember when I failed algebra and had to go to summer school? He did a whole series on parenting through academic challenges without telling me. Mason's breakup with Alexis? Dad shared it as a business lesson on cutting losses. I began digging through Dad's social accounts with new awareness. There it all was, our lives packaged and presented for public consumption, often without our knowledge. Family vacations, arguments, accomplishments, setbacks, all filtered through Dad's entrepreneurial lens and shared with his growing audience. My marketing background made the situation even more infuriating because I understood exactly what Dad was doing. He wasn't just sharing family moments, he was strategically building a personal brand using our lives as content. The carefully edited video of me hadn't gone viral by accident, it had been crafted for maximum emotional impact and engagement. The final blow came when a former colleague from my marketing firm messaged me. "Just a heads up, your dad reached out to our agency about a possible collaboration. He's positioning himself as a family lifestyle influencer and mentioned leveraging your authentic moment for a tableware campaign. Thought you should know." That evening, I discovered Dad had signed a 5-figure deal with Home Styles, a premium housewares brand based entirely on the viral video. They were planning a Thanksgiving table therapy campaign featuring tips for emotionally preparing your home for the holidays. When confronted, Dad seemed genuinely confused by my outrage. I'm bringing in more money in a month than you made in a year at that marketing job. You should be thanking me. That's when I realized the most devastating part of this whole ordeal. Dad truly didn't see anything wrong with what he'd done. In his mind, family experiences were simply raw material for content creation. My privacy, my dignity, my consent, none of it mattered compared to engagement metrics and sponsorship opportunities. The breaking point came 3 weeks after Thanksgiving. Dad had organized a dinner party for his business associates, ostensibly to celebrate end-of-year successes, but really to showcase his newly renovated dining room for a home design sponsorship. I had reluctantly agreed to attend after days of pressure from Mom. Just make an appearance, Autumn. It would mean so much to your father. I spent hours preparing myself mentally, rehearsing polite responses to inevitable questions about the video. I chose an outfit carefully professional, understated, as far from emotional table girl as possible. I even practiced a serene smile in the mirror, determined to reclaim some dignity. The evening started awkwardly, but manageably. Dad's business partners made a few references to knowing me from social media, but most were tactful enough not to elaborate. I nursed a single glass of wine and stuck to safe conversation topics. Then Dad called for everyone's attention by tapping his glass. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. Reynolds Properties had its best year yet, but surprisingly, our biggest success came from an unexpected direction. My stomach tightened as he gestured toward me. My daughter Autumn here helped us break into an entirely new market. Some of you might recognize her from her viral moment. A knowing chuckle rippled through the room. My cheeks burned. Tonight, I'm thrilled to announce our newest venture, a partnership with Elite Table, the premium tableware brand. Their emotional connection holiday line will feature products inspired by authentic family moments, starting with our very own Thanksgiving experience. He clicked a remote, and suddenly the dining room wall lit up with a projected image me from the viral video, now superimposed onto a promotional mock-up with Elite Table products. My private breakdown had become a marketing campaign, and the face of this campaign will be none other than my viral daughter. The room broke into applause while I sat frozen, my wine glass halfway to my lips. "Dad?" I managed to whisper. "I never agreed to this." He leaned down, still smiling for his guests, but hissing through his teeth. "We'll discuss this later. Don't make a scene." For once, both of my siblings noticed my distress. Mason frowned, looking between me and Dad with confusion. Zoe reached under the table to squeeze my hand supportively. Mom, seated on Dad's other side, maintained her perfect smile, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. "Richard," she murmured, "perhaps we should discuss this as a family first?" "It's already done," Dad replied dismissively. "Contract signed this morning." That's when something inside me snapped. Years of compliance, of putting the Reynolds image first, of swallowing my protests, it all rose up like a tidal wave. I stood slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "No," I said, my voice quiet but firm. Dad's smile faltered. "Autumn, sit down." I said no. Louder this time. "You do not have my permission to use my image, my experience, or my pain for your business ventures." The room went silent. Dad's business associates shifted uncomfortably. "You've been exploiting this family for years," I continued, my voice gaining strength, "turning our private lives into content without consent. But this crosses a line I can't ignore." Dad's expression hardened. "You're embarrassing yourself. This is a business opportunity that benefits everyone." "It benefits you, Dad, only you. And it comes at the expense of my dignity and privacy." Mom attempted damage control. "Autumn, darling, your father is just proud of the family. He wants to share." "No, Mom. He's not proud of us. He's using us. There's a difference." For the first time, I saw Mason watching Dad with something like suspicion in his eyes. Zoe stood up beside me, her silent presence a declaration of support. Dad's voice turned cold. That video has brought more positive attention to this family than anything you've ever done. If you can't appreciate that, perhaps you need to reconsider your place here. My place? I laughed without humor. My place in this family shouldn't be contingent on my usefulness to your brand. I looked around at the uncomfortable faces of Dad's business associates, at my mother's pained expression, at my siblings' awakening realization. Take down the video, I said firmly. Cancel this campaign. Respect your family's privacy, or you'll lose more than a marketing opportunity. You'll lose your daughter. The silence that followed was deafening. Don't threaten me in my own house, Dad finally said. That video stays up. The campaign moves forward. End of discussion. I nodded slowly, a strange calm settling over me. Then we have nothing more to say to each other. I walked out of the dining room, past the stunned guests, up the stairs to my childhood bedroom. Within 20 minutes, I had packed essentials into 2 suitcases. As I headed for the front door, Zoe intercepted me. "Where will you go?" she asked, tears in her eyes. "Heather's offered her guest room until I figure things out," I replied, referring to my closest friend from college. "I'll be okay." "This isn't right," she whispered. "What he's doing, it's not right." "No," I agreed, "it's not, and I'm done pretending it is." As I loaded my car, I made a decision. I wouldn't just disappear and lick my wounds. For once in my life, I would stand up to Richard Reynolds, not just for myself, but for every family member whose boundaries he had trampled in service to his brand. The question was how. Heather's guest room became my war room. As a digital marketing director for a tech startup, she not only offered emotional support, but valuable strategic insight. "Your dad's playing a game you actually understand better than he does," she pointed out, on my 3rd night there, as we sat cross-legged on her living room floor surrounded by takeout containers. "He may have stumbled into influencer status, but you've got actual professional marketing experience. Marketing ethical products, not exploiting my family," I countered. "Exactly, that's your angle." Her eyes lit up the way they always did when a campaign concept clicked. "This isn't just about taking down a video anymore. This is about consent in the digital age." Over the next few days, I researched everything I could about image rights, digital consent laws, and platform policies. The legal landscape was complicated. Privacy laws hadn't kept pace with social media reality, but I discovered several potential avenues for action. I reached out to Blake Sullivan, a college friend who had become an attorney specializing in digital privacy. He agreed to meet for coffee the following day. "From what you've described, your father has violated several platform policies regarding consent," Blake explained, reviewing my notes. "The legal case is trickier because you're an adult and it occurred in his home, but the fact that he's monetizing your image without a release form gives us leverage." "What about the tableware campaign?" I asked. "That's a clearer violation. Using your image for commercial purposes absolutely requires consent. We can send cease and desist letters to both your father and Elite Table." While Blake began drafting legal documents, I continued my research. I discovered an entire community of people who had experienced similar viral exploitation. Through online support groups, I connected with dozens of individuals whose private moments had been shared without consent, often by family members. "The hardest part was feeling like I had no right to be upset," wrote one woman whose mother had shared her wedding dress fitting meltdown. "Everyone kept saying, 'It's just a video.' But it was my moment, my vulnerability, exposed without my permission." These stories strengthened my resolve and helped shape my strategy. This wasn't just about my father anymore, it was about challenging a culture that treated private lives as public entertainment. Meanwhile, Zoe became my inside source, providing updates from the Reynolds household. "Dad's doubling down," she reported during one of our secret phone calls. "The video got taken down from TikTok for a day after someone reported it, and he went ballistic. Spent 3 hours on the phone getting it reinstated." "How's Mom taking my leaving?" "She's torn. I overheard her telling Dad he should have asked your permission, but she still thinks you're overreacting. Mason's been weird, though. Weird how? Like he's starting to see Dad differently. Yesterday, he actually questioned why Dad needed to post about his dinner with clients. This news about Mason surprised me. My brother had always been Dad's biggest supporter, eager to follow in his footsteps. If he was beginning to question Dad's methods, perhaps the family dynamics were shifting more than I realized. Heather helped me compile an evidence file, screenshots of Dad's posts about our family over the years. Records of increased engagement and monetary gain tied to personal content, examples of similar cases that had resulted in policy changes or legal action. We documented the tableware deal and other sponsorship offers that had come directly from the viral video. We need to be strategic about when and how we move, Blake advised during our planning session. A full legal battle could get ugly and expensive. Let's start with platform complaints and cease and desist letters. See how your father responds. Zoe provided another crucial piece of information. Dad had a digital archive of family photos and videos going back years, organized by content themes rather than actual family events. She sent screenshots of folder names like Mason's Sports Achievements, Inspirational, Zoe's Teenage Rebellion, Parenting Challenges, and Autumn's Career Journey, Setbacks and Growth. He's been planning content around our lives for years, I realized. None of this is accidental. By the end of the week, we had assembled a comprehensive strategy. 1. File formal complaints with all social media platforms hosting the video. 2. Send cease and desist letters to Dad and Elite Table. 3. Prepare a public statement about digital consent. 4. Connect with digital privacy advocates for additional support. 5. Document all financial gains Dad had made from family content. Are you sure you want to go this far? Heather asked as we reviewed the plan. This could permanently damage your relationship with your father. I thought about Thanksgiving dinner, about the dining room scene, about years of boundaries ignored and privacy violated. Dad damaged our relationship when he decided his social media presence was more important than his daughter's dignity, I replied. I'm just finally standing up for myself. That night I received an unexpected text from Mason. We need to talk, not at the house. Dad doesn't know I'm contacting you. I agreed to meet him for lunch the following day, both hopeful and apprehensive about what this might mean for my campaign against Dad's exploitation. The morning after finalizing our strategy, I submitted formal complaints to every platform hosting the viral video, citing specific policy violations regarding consent and exploitation. Blake sent carefully worded cease and desist letters to both Dad and Elite Table, outlining the legal issues with using my image for commercial purposes without consent. I met Mason at a quiet cafe far from Dad's usual haunts. He looked tired. The confidence he typically projected notably diminished. You look good, he said after an awkward greeting. Better than I expected. Thanks for the backhanded compliment, I replied dryly. He sighed. Sorry. I'm not handling this well. The house has been tense since you left. I can imagine. Mason stared into his coffee. I need to ask you something, and I need an honest answer. Has Dad always been this way with the social media stuff? Using our lives for content? Yes, I said simply. For years. I never noticed. Or maybe I didn't want to notice because it benefited me. He looked genuinely troubled. After you left, I started going through his posts. He's been documenting my entire career journey, positioning every promotion as a father-son dynasty-building narrative. I know. The thing is, Autumn, I earned those promotions. I worked hard. But online, it all looks like Dad's master plan. Mason's voice cracked slightly. It makes me look like I'm just riding his coattails. For the first time in years, I felt genuine compassion for my brother. That's the problem with Dad's approach. He takes our authentic experiences and reshapes them to fit his narrative, without considering how it affects us. I always thought you were being overly sensitive about the privacy stuff, Mason admitted. But when Zoe showed me the folders, he keeps the way he categorizes our lives like marketing materials. He shook his head. It's messed up. So where do you stand now? I'm not ready to walk away like you did, he said honestly. But I'm not okay with the Table Girl campaign. He crossed a line, and I told him so. This admission from Mason Dad's golden child was more significant than he probably realized. I filed complaints with the social platforms this morning, I told him, and sent cease and desist letters. I expected anger or defense of Dad. Instead, Mason nodded. Good. Maybe it'll wake him up. Before we parted, Mason provided valuable information. Elite Table was having second thoughts about the campaign after receiving messages questioning the ethics of using a viral video subject without consent. Dad was scrambling to salvage the deal, promising them that family tensions would blow over. By that afternoon, the first responses to my complaints began rolling in. 2 smaller platforms had flagged the video for review. One had actually removed it temporarily pending investigation. I posted a single, carefully worded statement to my own social media accounts, which had been dormant since the video went viral. Consent matters even within families, even online. I did not consent to being recorded during a private moment. I did not consent to that recording being shared publicly. I did not consent to my image being used for profit. I'm speaking up now because everyone deserves the right to control their own story. I tagged it with consent matters and my image my choice, but deliberately avoided naming my father or referencing the specific video. This wasn't about public shaming, it was about reclaiming my narrative. Within hours, my statement had been shared thousands of times. Former colleagues, college friends, and even strangers began reaching out with messages of support. Several digital privacy advocates contacted me, offering resources and amplification. Dad's reaction was swift and furious. My phone exploded with texts and calls from him, ranging from angry demands to take down my defamatory post to attempts at guilt. After everything I've done for this family, this is how you repay me? Mom called too, her voice tearful. Autumn, please. Your father is very upset. Can't we discuss this privately, as a family? There's no need to air our disagreements online. The irony of her statement was almost laughable. That's exactly my point, Mom. Family matters should be private, not content for Dad's followers. He's just proud of his family, she insisted, falling back on her standard defense. No, Mom, he's using his family. There's a difference. Later that evening, Zoe reported that Dad had been on the phone for hours, alternating between rage and damage control. 2 of the major platforms had now flagged the video, requiring him to address the consent complaint. Elite Table's marketing director had requested an emergency call. He keeps saying you'll ruin everything he's built, Zoe said. But Mason actually stood up to him, Autumn. He said if Dad had just asked permission in the first place, none of this would be happening. The tide was beginning to turn, but I knew Dad wouldn't give in easily. This was just the first skirmish in what would likely be a longer battle. Still, seeing the video flagged on multiple platforms felt like the first real victory I'd had since Thanksgiving. Blake called with an update the next morning. Elite Table's legal team is reviewing the situation. They're concerned about potential backlash if they proceed with a campaign that involves disputed image rights. What about Dad? No direct response to the cease and desist yet, but that's not unusual. He'll likely have his business attorney review it first. By the end of the day, the video had been removed from 2 major platforms and flagged on others. Dad's follower count took a slight dip as the narrative around the video began to shift from hilarious family moment to potential privacy violation. Several influencer commentary channels had picked up the story, with opinions divided but increasingly questioning the ethics of family content monetization. Dad finally called that evening, his voice cold and controlled. You've made your point, Autumn. You've disrupted my business relationships and damaged our family's reputation. Are you satisfied? This isn't about satisfaction, Dad. It's about basic respect and consent. I've given you everything. Education, opportunities, a home when you needed one, and this is how you thank me? By publicly attacking me? I haven't publicly attacked you. I haven't even named you. I've simply stated that I didn't consent to having my privacy violated. The video will be back up as soon as I resolve these nuisance complaints, he stated firmly, and I expect a public apology from you for this tantrum. That's not going to happen, I replied calmly. The video stays down, and the Elite Table campaign doesn't proceed with my image. Those are my terms. You don't get to set terms in my business. When it involves my image and my privacy, I absolutely do. After he hung up, I felt shaky but stronger than I had in months. For once, I wasn't backing down from Dad's intimidation. For once, I was setting boundaries and defending them. The following morning brought unexpected news. Elite Table had officially withdrawn from the campaign, citing unresolved consent issues. It was the first major concrete consequence for Dad's actions, a clear message that exploiting family for content had real business repercussions. My small victory felt significant, not just for me, but for everyone fighting to maintain privacy in an increasingly public world. Dad's response to Elite Table's withdrawal was swift and vindictive. Rather than acknowledging any wrongdoing, he doubled down, posting a lengthy statement about family loyalty and how the younger generation doesn't understand building a legacy. Without naming me directly, he positioned himself as a visionary entrepreneur whose family failed to appreciate his innovative approach to digital branding. He accompanied this narrative with a slew of previously unreleased family photos and videos, none featuring me, but showcasing Mom, Mason, and even Zoe in moments they likely hadn't consented to sharing. He's retaliating, Heather observed as we reviewed his latest posts. He's showing you that if you fight him on your content, he'll just pivot to exploiting the rest of the family more. My phone rang Zoe, her voice tight with anger. Did you see what he posted? That video of me crying after my dance recital? I specifically asked him never to share that with anyone. In the background, I could hear Mom trying to calm her down, while Dad's voice boomed about making memories. I'm so sorry, Zoe, I said, my stomach churning with guilt. He's doing this because of my complaints. No. He's doing this because he's a narcissist who doesn't care about our feelings, she replied firmly. This isn't your fault, Autumn. It's his. Even more alarming, Dad announced a new marketing initiative, Autumn's Thanksgiving Tips, a holiday preparation series that would use elements from the viral video integrated with expert hosting advice. He carefully avoided using current images of me, instead incorporating old family photos and references to the viral content without directly resharing it. He's trying to work around the cease and desist, Blake explained when I forwarded him the link. Using your name and past images in a way that still evokes the viral content without technically violating platform rules about the removed video. Can he do that? It's a gray area legally. He owns those old family photos, but using your name for a commercial venture without consent still gives us grounds to fight it. The campaign felt like a direct challenge, Dad's way of saying he would find ways to monetize my identity regardless of my objections. What hurt most was seeing Mom and Mason featured in the promotional materials. Despite Mason's apparent awakening to Dad's exploitation, he hadn't refused to participate. Your brother's in a complicated position, Heather reminded me when I expressed my disappointment. He works for your dad. His financial security is tied to the family business. Still, the betrayal stung. What Dad hadn't anticipated was how his aggressive response would affect public perception. As he escalated his family content strategy, comments on his posts began to shift. Anyone else finding this family content uncomfortable after his daughter's post about consent? Using your kids for content is weird, especially after one specifically objected. Business genius, but family ethics questionable. The more Dad pushed his narrative, the more people began questioning it. Several business partners contacted him with concerns about association with a potentially controversial figure. A planned speaking engagement on family values in entrepreneurship was quietly canceled. Meanwhile, my own statement continued gaining traction. Digital privacy advocates invited me to join panel discussions. A popular podcast about ethical social media practices requested an interview. I accepted these opportunities carefully, always focusing on the broader issues of consent and family boundaries rather than attacking Dad personally. The family began to fracture more visibly. Zoe, emboldened by my example, refused to participate in any more of Dad's content. After her dance recital video was posted, she began staying with friends more frequently, returning home only when necessary. Mom, torn between her husband and her daughters, became increasingly withdrawn. According to Zoe, she spent hours alone in her room, emerging only for meals and appearances in Dad's family dinner content. Mason straddled an uncomfortable middle ground. He continued appearing in Dad's business-related posts, but refused to participate in the autumn's Thanksgiving Tips campaign, causing visible tension in the family business. The situation reached a new level when I discovered Dad had created an entire archive of content planned around my job search and eventual comeback story. Zoe sent screenshots of documents outlining a narrative arc that would position my struggle as part of the Reynolds family resilience story, all without my knowledge or input. He's been planning to monetize my layoff this whole time, I realized with horror. The Thanksgiving video wasn't an isolated incident, it was part of a calculated content strategy. This discovery changed everything. What I had been treating as a response to a single violation now expanded into addressing years of systematic exploitation. With Blake's help, I drafted formal cease and desist letters to every business partner involved in Dad's family-centered campaigns, alerting them to the contested nature of the content and the potential legal and reputational risks of association. Dad's response was immediate and explosive. He called me at midnight, his voice shaking with rage. "You're destroying everything I've built," he shouted. "These partnerships took years to develop. I asked you to respect my privacy," I replied, struggling to keep my voice steady. "You chose to escalate instead. This isn't about privacy. This is about you being ungrateful and spiteful." "No, Dad. This is about consent and basic respect. Something you've never understood." After he hung up, Mom called, sobbing. "Please stop this, Autumn. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof. The doctor has warned him about stress." The guilt trip might have worked months ago, but I had gained clarity during this battle. "I'm sorry, Mom, but Dad made his choices. He could end this today by respecting my boundaries and stopping the exploitation of our family." "It's not exploitation. It's just sharing our lives." "Did you consent to having your marriage problems shared online last year?" I asked quietly. Silence. "Did you know Dad categorized your arguments as relationship challenges content?" More silence, then a small, uncertain voice. "What are you talking about?" "Ask Zoe to show you the content folders, Mom. See for yourself how Dad has been packaging our lives for consumption." The conversation ended with Mom still defending Dad, but with noticeably less conviction. The seed of doubt had been planted. The following morning, 2 more business partners withdrew from Dad's campaigns. The autumn's Thanksgiving Tips project was quietly archived without launch. Dad's social media postings slowed dramatically as he focused on damage control. For the first time, I felt like I might actually win this battle not just for myself, but for my entire family. 3 weeks after the business partners began withdrawing, Mason called to arrange a family meeting. "Dad's ready to talk," he said, sounding exhausted. "Really talk, not just dictate terms. Will you come to the house on Sunday?" I hesitated, remembering the last disastrous family gathering. "I don't know, Mason." "Mom's insisting on neutral ground," he added, surprising me. "We're meeting at Grandma's old house. Dad won't be filming or posting anything." The mention of Grandma's house, now vacant but still owned by the family, swayed me. That space held memories of the one Reynolds who had always respected boundaries. "I'll be there," I agreed. "But I'm bringing Heather to wait outside, just in case." Sunday arrived with a mixture of dread and hope churning in my stomach. As Heather drove me to Grandma's house, I reviewed the boundaries I'd established with Blake. "Remember, don't sign anything without legal review," Heather reminded me as she parked. "And if it gets too intense, just walk out. I'll be right here." The house looked exactly as I remembered, Grandma's hydrangeas still blooming in the front yard despite winter's approach. Inside, the familiar scent of lemon polish and old books brought unexpected tears to my eyes. The family had gathered in the living room. Dad sat in Grandma's armchair, looking smaller somehow. Mom perched nervously on the sofa beside Zoe, while Mason stood by the fireplace. Everyone turned as I entered. Autumn. Dad nodded stiffly. Thank you for coming. Let's be clear, I said immediately. I'm here to resolve this situation, not to surrender my privacy rights. We understand, Mason replied before Dad could speak. That's why we're here too. What followed was unlike any family discussion we'd ever had. Instead of Dad dictating and everyone else accommodating, each person spoke in turn about their experiences. Mom went first, her voice uncharacteristically firm. Richard, I've seen the folders on your computer. I've read your content strategy documents. I had no idea you were categorizing our lives this way. Dad shifted uncomfortably. It's just organization for posting. Everyone does it. No, Zoe interrupted. Everyone doesn't sell their daughter's heartbreak for engagement. Everyone doesn't plan content around their son's career milestones without his knowledge. Everyone doesn't tag family arguments as relatable content opportunities. Mason stepped forward, placing a stack of printed documents on the coffee table. These are screenshots of Dad's content planning calendar for the next 6 months. It includes Zoe's college decision announcement, Mom's birthday surprise, and my potential promotion, all scheduled as content before they've even happened. Dad's face flushed. That's just smart business planning. Staying ahead of its exploitation, I said quietly. You're turning real family moments into performances, without consent, for your financial benefit. I've given this family everything. Dad exploded, the calm facade cracking. Everything we have comes from my business success. If sharing some family moments helps that business grow, you should all be grateful. We're not props in your success story, Dad, Mason replied, surprising everyone with his firmness. We're people with our own lives and boundaries. Mom touched Dad's arm gently. Richard, I've supported you through everything, but this has gone too far. The way you handled Autumn's video, the partnerships you arranged without family input, it's hurt our children. It's hurt our family. For a moment, Dad seemed ready to launch another defense, but something in Mom's expression stopped him. He looked around at each of us, really looked, perhaps for the first time in years. I never meant to hurt anyone, he finally said, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. I saw an opportunity and took it. That's what I've always done. The opportunity wasn't yours to take, I replied. Those were my feelings, my private moment. A heavy silence filled the room. Then, unexpectedly, Dad's shoulders sagged. The elite table deal is officially dead, he admitted. 3 other partners have paused their campaigns pending family consent verification. My speaking engagements for next quarter have been cut in half. Instead of feeling victorious, I felt a complex mixture of vindication and sadness. This was never about damaging your business, Dad. It was about establishing boundaries. Mason took over, outlining the compromise he had developed with a family therapist he'd been secretly seeing. Dad would remove all family content posted without explicit consent. Future family content would require written approval from each person involved. A professional social media manager would review all posts for potential privacy concerns. Most importantly, Dad would attend family therapy sessions to address the underlying issues. And the viral video? I asked. Already permanently removed from all platforms, Mason confirmed. Dad submitted the takedown requests himself yesterday. I looked at Dad, searching his face for signs of resentment or manipulation. Instead, I saw something I'd rarely witnessed: uncertainty. I still don't fully understand why this was such a violation, he admitted, but I can see it hurt you deeply, and I don't want to lose my daughter over a video. It wasn't a perfect acknowledgement, but it was more self-reflection than I'd ever heard from Richard Reynolds. We've drawn up a family social media agreement, Mason continued, passing out printed documents. Everyone gets veto power over any content that features them. Family events remain private unless everyone consents to sharing. Dad's business content stays focused on business, not family drama. I reviewed the document carefully. It addressed my primary concerns while still allowing Dad to maintain a professional online presence. Most importantly, it acknowledged that each family member owned their own image and story. "I'll have my lawyer review this," I said, "but the principles seem fair." Mom wiped tears from her eyes. "I should have stood up for you children long ago. I thought I was keeping the peace, but I was enabling behavior that hurt my daughters." Zoe reached for her hand. "We're all learning, Mom." The meeting concluded with tentative plans for family therapy and an agreement that I would have my lawyer formalize the social media boundaries. As we prepared to leave, Dad approached me awkwardly. "The video views were declining anyway," he said, attempting humor that fell flat. Then, more seriously, "I'm sorry, Autumn. I really am." It wasn't a perfect apology, but from a man who had never acknowledged being wrong before, it represented a significant shift. Whether it would translate into genuine change remained to be seen, but it was a starting point. As I left Grandma's house, I felt a weight lifting, not completely gone, but lighter than it had been since Thanksgiving. The Reynolds family had a long way to go in healing our dynamics, but for the first time in my adult life, I felt like my voice mattered in my own family story. 6 months after our confrontation at Grandma's house, I found myself once again setting a table for a family gathering. This time, it was at my new apartment, a cozy 2-bedroom in a quieter part of Boston that I'd leased after accepting a position at Ethical Media, a marketing firm specializing in responsible digital strategies. As I arranged Grandma's china, Mom had insisted I take the complete set. I realized how much had changed in half a year. No phone hovered nearby recording my movements. No calculations about engagement metrics influenced my choice of centerpiece. The table setting wasn't content, it was simply a table, prepared with care for the people I loved. The journey since Thanksgiving had been neither straight nor easy. The family social media agreement, formally drafted by Blake and signed by all Reynolds members, had been tested several times. Dad's instinct to share family moments hadn't disappeared overnight. Twice he'd posted images that crossed boundaries, prompting difficult conversations and renewed commitment to the agreement. The weekly family therapy sessions revealed deeper issues than just social media boundaries. Years of performing for public consumption had affected all of us in different ways. Mom discovered she had developed anxiety around public appearances, constantly wondering if she was being recorded or evaluated. Mason confronted his fear that his professional accomplishments were valid only if publicly acknowledged. Zoe admitted to deliberately creating drama to gain attention in a family where ordinary achievements went unnoticed unless they generated engagement. For me, therapy uncovered how deeply the viral incident had shaken my sense of safety. I had panic attacks in public places for months, constantly scanning for phones pointed my way. The fear of being recognized, recorded, exposed had become almost debilitating before I finally began to heal. Dad's journey was perhaps the most surprising. Initial resistance gave way to reluctant participation and eventually to genuine introspection. The turning point came during our 3rd month of therapy when the counselor asked him to describe his childhood. "Nobody cared what I accomplished," he admitted, voice thick with emotion I'd rarely witnessed. "My father worked 2 jobs. My mother was managing 4 kids. There was no audience for my achievements, no matter how hard I worked." For the first time, I glimpsed the wounded child beneath Dad's relentless drive for validation, the boy who'd vowed his own accomplishments would be noticed, acknowledged, applauded. The revelation didn't excuse his behavior, but it helped me understand it in a way I never had before. My new position at Ethical Media brought unexpected healing, too. When I interviewed, I was straightforward about my experience as table girl. "That's precisely why we want you," the director explained. "You understand the human cost of digital exploitation in a way most marketers never will." I now consulted with companies developing family-focused content, helping establish ethical guidelines for consent and privacy. I had transformed my humiliation into expertise, my pain into purpose. The doorbell rang, interrupting my reflection. Mom arrived first, bearing her famous apple pie and a nervous smile. We had rebuilt our relationship slowly over months of honest conversations about her role in enabling Dad's behavior. She had finally found her voice, not just in family therapy, but in her own life, enrolling in art classes she'd postponed for decades. "The table looks beautiful, Autumn," she said, embracing me, just like Grandma would have done it. Zoe arrived next, her purple-streaked hair longer than when I'd last seen her. At 17, she had blossomed once freed from Dad's constant documentation. She no longer performed for attention, having found authentic connection through a photography club at school. Ironically, she had developed a genuine interest in digital content creation, but on her own terms, with clear boundaries. "Dad and Mason are parking," she reported. "They brought the good wine, not the one Dad posts about." We all laughed at this reference to Dad's new approach to social media. His business accounts now focused exclusively on real estate and entrepreneurship, with personal content limited to occasional, consent-verified family milestones. His follower count had initially dropped after the change, but had stabilized with an audience more interested in his actual expertise than family drama. When Dad and Mason entered, I felt the old tension rise briefly, then subside. Dad approached cautiously, respecting the boundaries that were still healing. "Thank you for hosting," he said, handing me a small gift bag. Inside was a framed photo of Grandma at her Thanksgiving table years ago, smiling as she arranged her china, the same pieces I had just set out. "I found it in the old albums," Dad explained. "Thought you might want it." The thoughtfulness of the gesture, a private family memory shared personally, not publicly, spoke volumes about how far we'd come. Dinner proceeded with a naturalness that had been absent from family gatherings for years. We talked, argued good-naturedly about politics, and shared genuine updates about our lives. Dad mentioned a new development project without once reaching for his phone to document the conversation. Mason described challenges with a difficult client without framing it as inspirational content. After dessert, as we lingered over coffee, the conversation turned to my recent speaking engagement at a digital ethics conference. "I still find it ironic," Mason remarked, "that the viral video disaster led you to becoming an authority on digital consent." "Life has strange ways of redirecting us," I replied. "I never would have chosen that path, but I'm proud of the work I'm doing now." Dad cleared his throat awkwardly. "I saw the article about your panel discussion in the Business Journal. They quoted your guidelines for family content creators." His expression held a mixture of pride and regret. They were good guidelines. Coming from Dad, this was high praise indeed. Later, as everyone helped clear the table, I noticed something significant. Not a single phone had appeared during dinner. For the first time in years, we had been fully present with each other, not performing for an audience or creating content. We had been a family, not a brand. The healing wasn't complete. There would be more difficult conversations, more boundaries tested and reinforced. Dad would likely never fully understand the depth of the violation I had experienced. But we had found a path forward, one that honored each person's right to their own story, their own image, their own privacy. As I hugged everyone goodbye at the door, I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me since that fateful Thanksgiving day. The table had been set, not just with Grandma's china, but with new family foundations: respect, consent, and authentic connection. The viral video that had nearly destroyed me had ultimately transformed not just my life, but my entire family. Some things should never be posted online, but the lessons we learned from that mistake would shape our relationships for years to come. I'd love to hear about your experiences with family boundaries and social media. Have you ever had a private moment shared without permission? How did you handle it? Please share in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about navigating family dynamics in the digital age. Remember, Your story belongs to you. No one has the right to share it without your consent. Thank you for listening to mine, and I wish you strength in protecting your own boundaries.